boom, you are live. And since there's nothing scripted, and that's a fact because I come here like with barely a few notes on the sheet. So I'm very happy to be here again with you, Arthur. Greetings. How are you?
Good, mate. Thank you very much. Still a bit
Perfect.
tired. I go to bed late,
Yeah, yeah.
but
No,
it's my doing. I'm at fault for all of what I do. But anyway, here
another
I am.
opportunity to maybe gain more wisdom. Yeah, gaining wisdom. I think that's the ultimate goal. Probably is gaining wisdom as we go, as we mature on Earth. Like I don't know, in this
Yeah,
place we live in called Earth. I don't really know where I am, what I am, who I am. When I'm in the midst of discovering all this, of or uncovering it. It was never have to be discovered. I think it's just
mm,
uncovering
yeah.
our potential, our full potential, definitely. So today, Arthur, we're going to focus on the remedy, definitely. Where I would like to start is we know what the solution is. We know what we got to do in pretty much any situation to make it better or to make it worse. So now we're faced with, I think, an all time mesmerizing of our potential, definitely. Like there is black magic at work for us to, and we fall deeply into the black magic, and then
That's
we
a
forget.
concept.
Yeah,
I was going to
we
say that's a concept that a lot of people have to get their head around that one because it's stuff we've focused on since
yeah,
2006, and we've put a lot of it out there. But yeah, it's anyone who. That's why our videos. One of the reasons we made our videos, all the many to nurture people into it to try and comprehend how it all really works. I mean, really work. We're not talking about books and all this, the real stuff, because that's what we've unraveled. And
but would
one,
you agree that to start building a solution, a remedy around our life, around our place here, is to
absolutely,
let go
because
of
it's
that black magic that's acting on us
the
often,
whole the
and
whole of the
we
system
just
is black magic in
reproject
practice.
because often Arthur, we just reproject that black magic on others, and
It's
it
a word that
destroys everything.
can stir up all kinds of things in people, but the whole of the system is black magic in practice. The whole of it, because we're manifesting imaginary constructs and
Yeah,
concepts made up out of thin air, setting into motion, and then believing that it is real, and then living our lives out of that stuff. Again, all that's touched on in many of our videos that we've done with you. So yeah, it is, and but it's just all it is. It's just we're putting images in other people's heads, getting them to focus on them so that they would believe in them and focus the energy on that, and then create them. And by creating them, you start living in them. You start living in, because the word live in, G is the highest authority, and in. So we live in the domain, or an aura, if you want, or a bubble of a dream. So, the whole of the system is this one big bubble, and everyone's been sucked inside it, living for the languages of that fiction, and then all the lifestyles that have emanated from that fiction, all emanating out of black magic, because they are not our dreams. We never created any of them. They're all borrowed. And it's that going back to the previous video, and I talked about how, I don't know if I did cover this properly, but how one of the reasons why there's been so many wars against the old Germanic countries and going into Russia and going to Scandinavia and elsewhere is because the men, the real men, not the men that have been turned into pissweak flops today. There's not many real men anymore. But and that's no disrespect to any man. It's just simply what's become, because people are so brainwashed by political correctness and all this gender stuff, and then there's been just so much subliminal stuff coming through advertising and marketing and commercials and all this subliminal stuff, and it goes on and on and on. But the original, when anyone tried to get inside another person's head, particularly innocent children, to do what we're talking about now about black magic, they would end up as the witches on the stake being burnt, or they'd kill them because they were a threat to their wife and their children, their families, and their village. And so the real men, if any of this stuff was going on, they would rout it out. And that his story, her story of the original Zionist, if you want to call it Zionist or Jewish thing, it's not really, because you remember, it's not a look. I won't go through all this, but it's not blaming because a lot of people are brought up in the Judaic faith. Um, it's more this black magic in practice that's rooted in the higher levels where it's all coming from. So there's a lot of people who call themselves Jews that have been now living in Israel and elsewhere who are not party to any of this. They're really innocent because they themselves don't know what's been done to them. Um, so the reason I'm mentioning it because there's enough history to show that so many of these occultic practices under the umbrella of what they label as Jews, which really are just occultic, groups of sects, 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 things like that, where they were caught with these practices and they got booted out of these countries, or the king would boot them out. And you'll see a lot of this kind of history going back the last 1,000 years where this shit's been going on, because at its root is this stuff. It's the root. It's this practice of black magic. And I don't want to get into all this too much because there's no remedy in any of this stuff, but it is good to at least be aware of how it works and why education is happening today, because we go into education to learn all the constructs and concepts, which are imaginary images or fictions derived from an imaginary alphabet language. None of this exists in nature. You can't learn any of this stuff anywhere in real life. And you have to be inculcated for so long and so intensely. And now it's made law. You have to fit in. If you don't go and raise your children in it, they come after you, take your children away for you. You could be incarcerated. You could be punished economically, commercially, all that kind of stuff. There's just so many different methods used. Then there's the people who act like sheepdogs against their own community. Many of us become sheepdogs to each other to keep us all trapped inside the prisons of these occultic brainwashing that goes on. And because, like I've said many times, that we're not born Australian or Christian or Jew, etc. We are inculcated into it after we appeared in the body, after we come out of mum, or a test tube. But the thing is this: is that so when we're explaining about black magic, it's not Hollywood movies as such. Even though there's a lot of dark stuff and there's ritual sacrifice and sexual abuse and all this other stuff that you can see in all these Hollywood movies and zombie movies, and it's just saturation. There's so much of this white anti-saturation, but the real truth behind it all, and why Hollywood exists, and why television or television exists, and why we had radio and all the other internet stuff today, is to get in here.
Yeah.
To get in. It's to get in here. That's what it's all about. It has no other purpose but to get in here. And then from that, if I can get you to dream, which is to think and feel what I want you to dream, and get you to focus on that, through belief, faith, or associated opinion, or whatever other means that can be done, and you direct our energy or your energy into those images, I can get you to create it. So that's why I've always said slaves create a world in their master's image without realizing, because it's all done by stealth, because it's a covert system of slavery. It's not really overt, even though it still is overt. Where originally it was overt, we had no covert. But now we have this covert at front, hiding the overt by those people at top. These are high priests, really high-level priests in Freemasonry, higher up, above show pony levels of Rotary Club and Lions Club and all that. And that's where everything's going on. That's why they're in here, because they can control you, what's going on in here, and force you to stay in your head. Because who we are is not in here. We are not in here. This is all the imaginary stuff. Who we really are is all around us. Our real consciousness is all around us through sensing. That's where the real is. That's the realism of life itself. Anyway.
There's something that you have to experience in life in order to know the feeling. And many things, I always say, you have to go through it to know how it feels. If you have never went through some sort of black magic, the one I'm thinking of is when you go see a doctor and he gives you a diagnosis for the big C, but then after a few months after, reversed it because there was nothing. And then all these months, you put that through your head and you started to get sick and throw up. I seen it in action with my wife. That's what I'm saying. I've seen that dark magic. We can call it dark magic. I prefer dark magic because black, I don't know, it refers to so many things. Black, dark
Well, especially
magic.
in secrecy. Black was all about it's in the shadows. It's people don't know, comprehend. It's all secret.
Yeah.
It's kept in secret. And
So,
and that's why
would
the
you
word is
agree
black.
that once you have experienced it and you are aware that it exists, uh, you start to detach from that stuff? Next time you go have that kind of experience with the doctor and diagnose something,
Yeah,
now you're gonna question it a bit more.
yeah.
Like,
Well, you see, we see 1,001 ways, like there's endless ways in the system where something has happened to someone or some family or some children or some, forest or local area or ocean or whatever, where something's gone wrong and the uproar is starting to work and the complaining, and then you want to get out there with rallies and try and stop it. There's just so many of them. But where it's all coming from is that it's like that analogy I've used many times where you get a young kid who goes to school and goes through all the inculcation in here, all this patterning of constructs and concepts to form languages that where we communicate in imaginary pictures and images that are not real, that have no life in it. And that kid takes an interest that leads to from a magnifying glass into a real interest with telescopes and microscopes. And that kid then goes through high school here in Australia, or whatever you call it in America, and then into university and comes out with the degrees, skilled in working with telescopes and microscopes as a scientist, or leaning into working with engineering and that. And they're looking at, for example, they look at a life form like a mountain, and everything in their head with what they're looking at is not coming from what they're looking of the mountain. It's coming from everything in here and the history going back, plus what they've garnished to it, plus all the interactions, everyone else who've been doing it as well in conversation. But it has no real connection with what we're looking at of life itself, the real life forms, because we're not sensing, we're imagining. So it's why we can go in and devastate a mountain, why we can rip it over through after surveying and rip it open and turn it into with roads and do all the things we do in the system that lead to all the things with, just devastation. Now, that same thing happens with medicine that you're talking about. The same thing happens in with what we call ecology and environmentalism and all these other things that we talk about, because there's so much stuff which is all rooted in the news of imagination. It's not rooted in the real life, because to get the truth, you get it directly from the life form or from the whole forest that communes with us as well as the bigger picture. So we know its purpose, and we can zoom into the tiny details of the creatures and insects and other life forms, inanimate or not, because everything has life in it, even rocks have life, etc. But the point I'm getting at is that if we don't know the big picture of the truth, then we don't even know who we are or what we're part of. And that ostracization, that disconnect is where we are in the system, imagining that we have truth when we don't, because it's all defined to us. Everything explained to us is not the truth, even though they say it's a daffodil and it's yellow and it's this and that. And we're looking at that life form. It's still, that information is not coming direct from the life form to us. The life form never told us it's a daffodil and it's yellow. It's because someone else is in here, in our head, who told us that. Be it teacher, mum, dad, be a collective evolution of the science of that his story of daffodil and yellow, right? Which is then documented in books and all that his story. All of it's fiction. None of it's true, because it ain't our life, and we never created these dreams, because the only thing that matters here and now is the dreams we create uniquely with direct experience with life itself through senses. That's all that matters. So the hijacking goes right back, and confusion, and that's the chaos, and that's what you're talking about with your wife, is that chaos is all the disconnect coming from all the different jargons and of communication out of health and science and medicine and big pharma, and on it goes. And all that is chaos because it ain't real. It's not your dream. All the great villages and tribal people, nomadic or not, had access to all this stuff. They were able to mend broken bones. They were able to do things in ways that it's still beyond most people's comprehension today. How we were able to do most extraordinary things. And I'm not talking about what you see in sci-fi movies and sci-fi TV series and that do extraordinary things with healing and you see all these amazing things going on. But in real life, it's masking the truth of what we are truly capable of. But we're so asleep. And the biggest issue is that we have practiced 24/7 in the fiction. We go to bed with it, we wake up with it, we talk about it like we're doing right now. We're using fiction now, talking this language. And we get so bonded to it, we think this is what we're part of. This is who we are. So to start to undo it, when we talk about remedy, to get away from chaos, to get back to the true peace and calm, where the real power operates, you've got to start practicing. You've got to live it. You can't think it and imagine it, because that's all fiction too. That's why when I say to people, when you're watching our videos and listening to everything we're talking about, it's still not going to do anything for you unless it resonates for you as some truth and you start living it. So you're living in the dream and you're doing it. It's there where the effects of all that fiction starts to wear off, but you got to keep doing it, keep doing it. And this is cold turkey. It's like a heroin addict coming off heroin. You've got to go through cold turkey. And all kinds of symptoms will appear. All kinds of phobias and paranoia and psychosis. All kinds of stuff comes up. Much of it buried underneath, but because it's a madness to live in an imaginary dream world that we never created, and yet somehow we have accepted it as our truth, and it is our real life. And none of it has never been. So unless we wake up and get back to senses and start creating our real dreams, we won't know the truth about health or medicine. We won't know the truth about truth, and we won't know how to live it and be it. So these things are paramount to waking up. And unless one comes to the threshold of seeing that fiction is fiction and recognizing what fiction is, the confusion will continue. The resistance against truth will continue. The disparity from things like mediocrity, second best, scarcity, accepting war, and all the things going on with political unrest and social unrest, and all these things are derived from our collective because we're the ones feeding it. We're the ones that give our energy to these things. And the only way you change is to stop giving your energy to it, like it's a mass walking away from it, to a remedy, to a way of life local again. And why we talked about in another video, why local is so important. And from there to build real dreams that stops our need to get on the magic carpet ride, which is one of the things we posted about. You imagine people holding up a magic carpet, and on there are people who want to go for an adventure. And so all the people below who are the slaves who support the system have to carry them while they're on the aeroplane or on the train or on the bus or going from banking, commerce, jobs. And there's all these magic carpet rides people have been carrying, but not realizing that underneath the fantasy world that they're in is a slave labor force. Some who are actually sitting on the carpet ride having a holiday on a Kontiki tour somewhere or whatever. But it's that people don't see this. The other analogy is the ant colony, where someone comes to the ant colony and says, listen, guys, I've got a whole new way of life for all of you, got a whole new program. And the ants go, well, we're interested, what is it? And it starts explaining it all. And the ants say, yeah, we'd like to do that. And so the ants go for the programming, and they want to be reprogrammed, so they do. So gradually, all the ants forget that they're ants, and they forget the colony, and they forget the elderly and the kids and all that. And gradually, the ant colony starts to collapse until it's completely destroyed. And all the ants, regardless how far the fantasy goes, where they think they're disconnected from the ant colony, they all go too. They're all gone. Gone. Because we don't know who we are, what we are anymore. And it goes on and on. There's so many of these things. So, yeah,
as soon as let's say I'm outside sitting around the fire with a bunch of friends, and we look at the stars, and then people start talking about the stars, and they say, "Oh, look, that's Jupiter." I get all freaking confused or lost. Like I just want to say something. I don't, because, like, what, Jupiter came to you to tell you he was Jupiter? Like, this is where I think a lot of the confusion arises, is where we give name to everything and we name everything and we go by these names so much. That's why you go by your name and you protect your name and your name is everything, and like where it's not even who you are.
Exactly, and that's where the confusion. That's why they
Yeah.
get in here, because if they can confuse us and get us to give our energy to the lies, where all this
Yeah.
confusion is derived from, we will accept. That's a solar system out there, and that's a galaxies and
Yeah.
universes, and there's high. All of this is made up because, as you've already explained, there's no direct sensory experience with these things to commune with them directly. It needs another man to talk to you about it. So you've got a
Yeah.
man acting as galaxy, acting as Jupiter, acting as solar system, acting as system science, but you're not actually having a direct experience, sensory experience with these things at all. It's all imaginary. So unless we can break that hypnotic trance, get out of that trauma, because it is trauma, because the trauma is all the rejection of who we are that's been built up underneath, and that's where all the frustration comes from. There's many things that have been done to us as Freakensteins. We've been
And
experimented on for a long time
could
by these
that be
people.
the direct consequences why we're so addicted to fantasy? Like you can
Well,
name all kinds of fantasy, sexual fantasy, name it,
yeah,
all of them.
yeah, because we're doing harm to life. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we see as has harm. The fact is that we are doing harm to who we are, and in doing that, we're capable of now doing harm to others. So we have to be destroyed to be able to destroy, to be able to do whatever we do in fantasy. We have to do it. We're the ones
Ah,
who are doing and causing it all because it's can't. So this is why the high levels of the occults and the Freemasons, it was done to them too. It doesn't matter how arrogant they may be or how righteous they are, how they think they're doing the right thing and that they're above all this, but it's been done to them too. There's nobody in the system, no matter high up the pyramid to the very top, to the very bottom, where all the minions are, that this hasn't been done to. So there's no one wins. There are no winners in any of this because there's once you're lost in that fiction, you die in that, you truly are gone forever. Because there's no life, there's no follow through of life to be able to carry on with life because we don't know what life is anymore. And fiction will never lead us back to life. So the battle to undo the hypnotic trance, all that, that storytelling, the spelling, they taught us to spell to put us under the spell. All these things come. That's why the word belief has the word lie in it, and then there's I, because that all-seeing I is the corrupted one who doesn't know who it is, who he or she is anymore, carrying out the fantasies of gender or whatever job, career, or task, or whatever status and standing they have. Oh, that's all bullshit as well. And this includes military might and all that. When you truly wake up, it doesn't matter anymore. It wouldn't matter if they threw all the military force of the whole of the world against you. It still has no effect on you. In spite of what the level of threat and actions they want to carry out, you won't die. You don't die because it's an eternal life. It really is an eternal life, but we don't know what that is. And it's been wide-anted. Like there's so much stuff in mainstream and alternatives where we've had like Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle, and there's Oprah Winfrey, and on it goes and on. Now, much of the stuff that they're talking about is all fiction because it's still not your dream. In the world of Freemasonry at the higher levels, you can go into their supermarkets and go into their bookstores of fiction and go, like we talk about, you can go buy a book on consciousness and buy a book on freedom and buy a book on truth and joy and happiness. But none of this is still real because all we're left with is imagining it all. Then we go out in life to imagine I'm happy and Jew and happy and all this, and I'm practicing that, the scripts, and we become happy and joyful, but it's still not the real one. I mean, the
it's
greatest
not
lie and
your
liar.
joy. It's someone else's joy projected on you.
Yeah, but we're just practicing. We're on stage acting the scripts through the fake person that we've become, that memory bank we talk about in other videos. We're performing it because, like we talk about the AI and the pyramid, AI can't be
Yeah.
what it is without the whole history, the back catalog going behind it. Because you need it all working together to form all the fragmentation of the lie from the alphabets all the way up to the technology of the internet and all that. So that's where you see this is really happening from the bigger picture. So you've got to be able to step back and look at and just sense the bigger picture of these things. Because if you don't know where the line is drawn, where fiction ends and reality begins, even though reality is all around us all the time, it never ended and never started. Life, because remember, life comes out of life, comes out of life, comes out of life, comes out of life. Intelligent or super intelligent comes out of super intelligent, comes out. There's no beginning or end to these things. It always has been what it is. So all the concepts and constructs of beginning and ends and evolution and Big Bang and all these things. And we've been so utterly done in here that the confusion can be so powerful, all the way down to gender and relationships and, and relying on astrology and all the astrological charts and all these things. These are all made up. But the thing what's really powerful about this black magic is that we breathe out and the intentions and what we're dreaming goes out with our breath to meet with everyone else's breath. And that can create huge placebo effects where we think it's all true, but we are the ones creating it all. And so we're in conversation, like you said, sitting around a fire about Jupiter. And you're having a reaction to it, not hopefully not trauma-based, but you're going, well, hang on, whoa, who told you that's Jupiter? Does Jupiter come down and talk to us about and all that? But it's when you start looking at things like this, you start to realize just the scale and the depth of this confusion and the distractions that it's upon us, because we are so busy with the 24/7 of remembering and talking and thinking fiction in here that we don't know how to sense anymore. We might get little glimpses of sensing real life, but it's very challenging. And then you get ostracized, and you can get incredible abuse thrown at you and ridicule and all that, and because you're thinking differently, you start to appear outside the real box. Not the Matrix one we outside the box, the real one. Because even the Matrix is another one that's very confusing for a lot of people.
So if dark magic is not really real, they're nonsense and stuff, is life magic, Arthur? Because people say life is magic.
Yeah, but in context to the way the system works, no, because it's no magic. Life is life. It has substance. It lives. It's not a hologram. It's not invisible. You can touch it, taste it, feel it, smell it, hear it, see it. It has substance. It's tangible. So there's nothing magic about the substance of who we really are.
Okay.
But because we're so dumbed down, we're so descended into such a deep sleep. To recognize our true attributes and capabilities, it looks like it's magic when you come across someone who can do what they can do with whatever they're doing. Now, if anyone who's real doesn't do that to become a Pied Piper, or to be a false shepherd, or some misleading. They only do it as to remind us of our true capacity and what it's going to take to be able to get back to that and be that too. Now, I'm not saying we can walk on water, because I'm still bamboozled by these sort of things. But I would not be surprised what we're capable of if we have truly woken up and we really remember who we really are. So that may be seen as magic coming from a dumbed down state, looking at those kind of ideas. But in real life, amongst the norms of real life, put it this way, when I had these epiphanies back in 2006, and one of them was an Aboriginal man moved his whole body in front of me and said to me his name, and it was so long that I just called him Gugadunga. And my dog was looking at him, and there was a communion going with my dog and him while I'm on this fast walking. And he told me his name, and I called him Gugadunga because it was just so damn long. And he didn't tell me to do anything or what to do and all that sort of stuff. And then he went. And when I was in that, just whatever state that is, it's a natural state. There's no time or space going on. There's none of this. There's no duality. There's none of this happening. And I had tears of joy and elation, and my body was sweating, and this light, there's all this gold and yellow lights around. And I stopped the walk and went home to Fiona. I said, no, this is the second experience of this 4 different experiences that I had during the 5-month period in 2006, during the walks along the same location, along 1 kilometre strip, that these things would happen. And I was talking to Fiona about this, and I said, God, I think I'm going crazy, And I told her about what happened, and we talk about it. And so we agreed, let's just make up an imaginary bookshelf, leave that experience in the bookshelf as a reference point. Let's just move on with our lives, right? Which I did with all the other experiences. But the reason I'm bringing it up is because I actually got, the urge in me was so strong. I started making telephone calls to land councils and try and contact traditional elders or wherever I could find them in Australia, and got through to eventually. I spent a lot of time into this to talk to people. And when I explained these experiences, what was happening, and there's a lot more to it, it could all appear to be magical. I get the feeling from them was going, yawn, yawn, boring, boring. This is all normal to them, what I'm talking about, because it happens a lot in their real life. So because we actually can move our body. We actually can do that. And I knew he was a man on the land. Kukudu was a living man on the land, just like you and I, living, breathing man. And I wanted to try and track down, find out where he was. And Fiona kept saying to me, don't bother, he'll come to you when the time comes, whatever, if there was to be. That was what she was saying to me. And in the meantime, after about 2 weeks of putting an effort to try and find out where does this man live? Who is he? What was he that way? And I stopped doing it. But that whole experience of someone moving the whole physical body in front of me like that to commune with me, with the dog communing with him. And I'm looking at the dog, and so I know that it's not just me imagining, and this is really happening. That could be magical, but actually it isn't at all. It's normal. We all can do it, but we are just so far gone. We're so deeply shut down from our true capacities. So I don't comprehend yet. No, I do comprehend how it works in a way, but to do it, to live it, to be that, there is so much in the letting go to allow the real consciousness to permeate through our whole vessel and alter the way we are imagining, get rid of all this, basically get out of our head, that we are actually capable of able to move our body, to commune with each other at mobile phones. We can talk to each other with our phones. There's nothing magical about that. All the progress of civilization or technology is nothing magical about any of it. It's all fiction. They're prosthetics to cover up our real skill sets, what we're all capable of doing, that we gave up. That's why we need all these things, why we need motorized transport, because we gave up the real natural transport. We gave up the real communication. We gave up the real language, so that's why we have alphabets. And we've given up so many different things. It's quite enormous, really, how much we've given up that is an expression of our true natural attributes. And why children should be brought up by nature, because this is what they expands in them naturally. So, and why we have so many books and, like Jack and the Beanstalk, and we have many, many fairy tale stories to keep us, things like Avatar, that movie, it's all there to white ant everything of the truth. It's like we had communism to destroy the Vedic culture in Russia, and from that to destroy the idea of real community, because it was a natural thing. We're all social, natural creatures that way, and but to break it down through all that terror, because they what did they murder 60 million? They say intellectuals, incredibly smart people in Russia. And apparently, when Mao Zedong was trained by the Russian cabal behind this communism, he's supposed to have killed over 60 million Chinese as well, because the old Russia were villages and tribes and nomadic tribes. The old China was villages and nomadic tribes. We all come from villages and nomadic tribes out in what we call Europe or Asia. These were the norms, and everything local was very important. And why now everything's become internationalized. There's an agenda behind this, a massive agenda behind this.
So to make men sedentary was also part of that black magic.
Yeah. Yes. It's just the scale,
Because I find that's part of the boredom too, to be sedentary, to be always in the same place, and it gets boring. We should be moving around, roaming around the earth or the country or whatever, like you said.
When we do things from the heart, and I've experienced, these are things I've experienced, even though I'm not saying I'm fully with it yet, with doing it, living it. But when you do it from the real heart, sex stops. You don't need sex anymore, because the whole purpose of co-creation is the sperm and the egg out of the dream, of the inspiration of the dream to create the living child, in the natural reality that we're supposed to be part of, and it's so fulfilling. And just even to have that one engagement to create a child, it's so incredibly fulfilling that it lives with you for the rest of your life. You're not like in where the fiction of sex, you can't satiate it. It's insatiable. You got to have an orgasm and do all the things you want and have fun and a friendship, and then you need to have another one,
It's like
and
a
then have
urge.
another one,
It's like a
and then
urge.
have
Yeah.
another one, and then experiment with blowjobs and anal
Yeah.
penetration, all the other things that go on. This is we don't know all these pleasures are not a natural thing, because in the true state where we are, we the respect and the real grace and all that coming from the good heart and its virtues is so vivid, so strong. But when we do engage in what we call sex, it's to create it's to create, because that's what it's all. It's about creation all the time. In the Ringing Cedar books, it points out, and I agree with what Anastasia says in the Ringing Cedar books, that when you masturbate, or when you have an orgasm, or you're having sex without that real intention of creating a child, you're still creating a living form, but it's now so distorted, and it suffers. It actually suffers. And that energy accumulates, and that's also used by the occultic practices as the dark energy. It's used against you, against all of us, from all that suffering and stuff. So, what I'm getting at, that full responsibility, which is where the real heart is, where the real love operates, the real one, undefined. We have no need for sex anymore. We're just like animals that way. There's a time to co-create and expand, not like cows to the herd, but I've used this analogy before. You imagine you're in paradise and you're dreaming for a partner, and there's a partner out there who's in paradise in nature dreaming for a partner, and then you might be two different villages, and you eventually it comes there, you're drawn to go to another village or whatever, and there you meet your partner who has this dream, and there's this real connection, this really strong, I don't want to use the word spiritual, but this is really strong heart-based connection. And so they enter into the marriage of that union, and now they're in a bigger dream, a co-creation of a bigger dream together as a collective, a natural collective. And then they dream amongst home and all things we do, and we dream for a partner, and so that inspiration comes where we come together to create. And it's so powerful that everything we do from the heart it fulfills you. The fulfillment goes on forever. And we create the child like that in the domain. Now, there's no back door. There's no concept of separation and divorce, and there's someone else to covet. This doesn't happen, because when you're in the real good heart, none of this happens. You don't entertain the ideas and constructs of gender and all these other things. It's just life. It's an incredible joy of life, and the expansion of that life that we are naturally. It all happens naturally. We don't even have to be educated about this stuff. It happens naturally. It's built into all of us. Now, if in the analogy of the system, if we got involved with the partner for the fantasy, the imagination of what we think is a partner, and we played out all the emotions thinking there's real love in it, right? Only for when we don't get what we want, because in the system, it's all about getting what you don't have. You go search for what you don't have to make you feel whole about what is missing, because we're conned into believing that we don't have love, that we don't have freedom, that we don't have joy, that we don't have health, that we don't, there's 1,001 of these things. We don't have certainty or security. And so we go looking for it and searching for it. And this is a scam. It's a lie. So relationships are like this too. And that's why we see so many people come together and move apart. Now, I went through this too. I never got married, and I don't know about other kids. I don't think I've ever had any other kids. It wasn't until I met Fiona when she was 38 and she lit up. There's this light around like a Christmas tree. I didn't even know what she looked like. I was just blinded by this intense light, gold yellow light. And then when I saw her, I said, okay, this is my wife. And I had to use caveman tactics 6 months later to get her, you know, because she wasn't interested, because of where she was at with her
Yeah.
repression and where I was at with my shit. But anyway, look, we both have been yearning for a real dream, and we've had to go through all the years of what we got together in a marriage and then love for life and all that, to wake up to all the things we did that weren't the real one, and to create the real one together,
Yeah.
which we're still working on. We're still willing to let go, because it's all about letting go, letting go, letting go, but no back door, no back door, no other part, no sleeping around, no looking and longing for someone else. To get rid of all of this, and that certainty and that security, it's a natural thing, not something that we fight for. It's already there if we allow it to be, and we live from that. Then we will slowly change. And this is what's happened to her. It's what's happened to me. Now, going back to that domain where you got a couple in there, if the system is what brought that relationship together, if one of the partners stops to love the other partner, it's like the sun that shines over the dream of life. When we form a real relationship, it's like a sun shining over our relationship, over our marriage. It's a natural light we create. Now, if we stop to love that partner, that light, that sun that's shining in the domain that we hold starts to fade, because our heart's not giving energy to it anymore. The same, if we stop to love the dream of life, the sun will fade. And it's only amongst all of us across who really truly love life, in spite of the confusion, that the sun is still shining, even though it has bits of black appearing here and there, because we're creating all that as well. Everything's to our experience. It all sounds wacky and out of this world, but everything is to our experience. If we stop to love our partner, the decay of that, and then we end up separating and breaking apart, and then everything else that goes wrong with health and all that appears as well. It's amazing how we do it, what becomes of us, in
You know,
spite of the
when we get married, they make us do all kinds of vows and stuff. And why not the
commercial.
vow? Why not the vow to evolve? Like, because as what you say, if you want your couple to sustain and to last, you must both evolve. Because if one doesn't want to evolve, want to remain in the illusion, it's going to be hard for a couple to stay together. That's probably why you're still with Fiona. I'm still with Kim after all these years, is because we're both committed to evolve. Maybe not at the same speed, but we see that there's an evolution necessary into our couple, into our life. Would you agree
Yeah,
with that?
I just look at it. I look at it as just as a full responsibility to be morally correct, not the way the system taught us, but just I know in my heart that I would feel very cold and uncomfortable if I was to start to do things that weren't part of that dream, because there is so much seduction from this darker emotional stuff coming at us all the time. And you've got to realize these influences on us and how easily we can begin to recede from the marriage. This is not a marriage of ownership or power control. It's a real union of the heart to the heart that is undefined. It's a full responsibility to be present, like we talked about little Mary and Alice in Wonderland, and how Alice is not present. And if we believe Alice, then little Mary won't be present. So a lot of Mary's habits and patterns will become unnatural, because she'll be so immersed in the fiction, entertaining fiction, that it's decaying so much of her real life around her. And that's why we see so much harm, because we have decayed we've peeled away from, like a dimmer light switch, we've dimmed down from the real heart of that super intelligence. And without that super intelligence naturally evoked in us through direct sensory experience, we're capable of the most terrible crimes and harms and things, and what we do and what we do to life and all that. And we are talking about these videos while we are waking up amongst all this shit. And all you can see really is that responsibility that I carry for me, privately, for me, that I'm in horror to what I've supported and what I was and still am, because I'm a hypocrite. I'm a classic hypocrite. Because in spite of all the dreams of kingdom and all the things that we're doing, I'm talking to you right now on technology. I'm using mobile phones, and there's so many fictions all around me in my life that have required the destruction to life itself. Life forms that had a natural purpose to alter them into dead things, so they have an unnatural purpose where we then become slaves to them to maintain the fiction, because that's all we can do, because fiction doesn't have any life. So everything going wrong is because of that decay where we've receded from the super intelligence of the good heart, where all that real wisdom operates, that has us keep us in union, that has us meet the real partner, that doesn't have us fall in love and out, and then fall in love and out, fall in love and out, and go, and all the fantasies of love and all these wacko things that we come up with, imaginary things, because usually why we're doing it is because we're trying to fill ourselves with what we don't have. Because that's what's behind it, and that's what drives us. I don't have real love, and I want to have real love. I want to be seen by others that I'm in a real relationship. Look at me, I'm okay, I'm actually normal, or I'm better than somebody else. Because sometimes people use it to garnish and turn things from the ego into all this bigger superfluous nonsense that we get caught up in. So anyway, look, the system with its black magic and what we're just talking about, these are all the effects, all the side effects of all this madness. We're running around like roosters with heads chopped off. We don't have access to the real super intelligence, where our real wisdom and the real soul is. And we're pretending, imagining everything because of all the books and all the talks and all the videos and all the other influences that we've been exposed to, and the ones that we've come up with in our own imagining as well. But all that time, we're in fiction. And it's interesting when people say they're consciousness or they're goddesses or they're a god or all this and that, and you look at carefully in their life and they're around them, they're just lots of divorces and separations. And and I've said to various people that I've got to meet over the years, one of the things I'd worked out as I was waking up is that if you really want to learn the truth about real relationships, go and find couples who've been together 40, 50 years who truly are happy, and talk to them.
Yeah.
Don't talk to women who've got a history of broken relationships, who act with wisdom and they talk like they're smart. They're not, they're stupid. It takes a lot. I'm only generally speaking, because there are some who have come past all this and woken up, and they're still trying to work out where to meet a real partner and not play out this stuff anymore. There are some like that too. I have met them. But yeah, it's best always, look, this is, again, to find the remedy during the fall in the system from when it all started. You ain't going to find it. You can never find it during the history of the system. You're going to go back before the fall happened to find the remedy that fixes the whole problem of the system, because it's a much bigger picture and it's not corrupted by all this, what we've garnished and added to all the history and scripts along the way of our ancestors and us in the system, playing out this psychology and counseling and purpose for life and what we consider as good and bad and right and wrong. And it just, we are bamboozled, we are mesmerized, we're discombobulated by so much fiction in here and all around others who have got it in here. Because if you don't have it in here, it won't be all around you. So you need to have lots of people in here. That's why we see billboards. That's why we see skyscrapers and all the fictions everywhere of system life, because it's in so many people in here who want to live together in the fiction. We call it suburbs and cities and apartment blocks and all that stuff. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. So again, it's all of that is the withdrawing from the real bond with life itself. And that's why the sun is not as what it used to be, and why the climate's all changed, and why everything's getting more damaging, whether the heat is stronger, whether the drying and the humidity and there's all sorts of things that we have absolutely decimated because of what we've entertained in here, that's altered the climate around us and where we live and all across Earth. We're all at the effect of each other's nonsense. We truly are. We are responsible. Now, that is full responsibility to stop it. Get back to that super intelligent, to stop it and start withdrawing from all of that. Not in reaction, as in trauma, because that only feeds it and only just perpetuates it. But the real peace and calm where you don't react anymore. You can look the devil in the face. You can look at the horror of what we've created. You can look at the horror in other people, what's become of them. We can look in the mirror, if you want, at the horror of what we've become. But that doesn't mean that we cannot break away from this if we have that access to that super intelligence at the same time, which is what happened with me. So you can have that wisdom. So here I am. I'm a fat Greek wog. with a body that's pretty damaged, but I'm still capable of doing things. And I get on and just get on what I can do. It doesn't stop me, because what matters is the real hard one and working with that. So other people who accuse me of being a cult or that I'm whack and all, that's fine. They can have that. That's just their own fear and their own confusion with trying to work out, what's going on, Because when you meet real people, when you're on the real path, everything's inclusive, not exclusive. And I'm not talking about cults, and cults got to be underneath each other as inclusive. Because when you've got a real conscience, people need space to have their private dreams, private life, and have their private whatever, but they're part of a local tribe or local community too. And they live for that village. They live for that tribe. Because the collective, everyone putting energy to care for the tribe, allows the village or the tribe to take care of everyone. And everything's looked after. And that ends the Kontiki tours and aeroplanes and trains, and it stops all the fantasies of overseas travel and all that so much, because it's not a natural way of doing things. I know it sounds crazy.
Arthur, they say that home is where the heart is. You talk a lot about the art. Art is an anagram for earth. Maybe
Good
the
analogy,
goal is
mate.
maybe the goal is to return home, returning to the art.
Not returning to concrete, plastic, and steel and all that either.
No. Some say it is the longest journey, longest road you'll ever travel is from your freaking nonsense program head to your heart. I went easy with what I said. I could go a lot more.
No, it's
we're
true,
on
because
YouTube.
it's 24/7.
I was gonna say you stupid head to your divine
It's true.
art.
I could totally agree with everything, empathize everything you're saying, because we have practiced 24/7 setting into motion fiction.
Yeah.
And we're living in the fiction of the
So
dreams.
it's all fiction in there.
So to undo it, you've got to start living in the real dream, but you've got to practice that to start to change that and what's in here. So, a lot of people turn up here, like I said, I get a lot of people used to ring me up. Arthur's Kingdom up and running yet? I say, yeah, come over. I've got shovels and hose ready for you. Come and get involved. And they never turn up because they're all lazy and they want, whatever. They want everything set up before they turn up instead of creating it, and being part of it. So that plays out in 1,001 ways as well, in other areas as well. Fiona and I have been just flabbergasted and just bewildered by the scale of how far we have gone. We are truly, look, where we were in the 60s and the 70s, we spent more time not being as narcissistic and self-centered as we are today. The scale of what's become of us since the 60s and 70s till today, even though the 60s and 70s, part of that pyramid where we might be just down here in the 60s, 70s, where all the shit started back here, but the escalation up to here and what we're now trapped in up here at the top. You can't just turn up to a committee and say, I'm into, and think you're imagining you've got it all worked out. I've had lots of people come into my life through Love for Life work, insights we've been sharing since 2005, 2006. Some are really good friends I love dearly, but they came as copies, mimics at first.
Yeah.
They never created their real dream. Instead of contemplating what I'm sharing as the insights and what you just shared, and see how you can practice creating your real life in your unique way through your sensory experience, which is the way to go, because then you don't play out all the emotional shit that's buried still behind the masking and the mimicking, right? Because why? Because we still want to feel what we lack about truth. So we search for truth and we find Arthur what Arthur's talking about, and they want to fill themselves up with it. Then they come into my life, they're part of it, and all they are is a mimic and a copy of Arthur. And that's nothing real. And that actually is cultish. That's what a cult is. And I don't want to do that. So, we've had those who watch these videos who know what I'm talking about and been part of, they'll know and they'll laugh. Because I would have done that too in my own way before I woke up. But we have to undo all this kind of mesmerizing addiction to imaginary constructs and concepts of freedom and truth and consciousness and community and all that. Because if we don't break away from that, we still aren't able to live it. Because bringing fiction into a dream that isn't fiction creates enormous difficulty amongst those who don't want to support fiction and live in fiction. Because that's what cults are all about. Fiction is a sameness modality, a sameness in feeling. There's a sameness in intellectualizing. There's a sameness in how we look and dress, and it goes on and on. And that's robots, it's drones
Same.
and slaves. And that's the whole system is made up of this kind of fake new coming, new world order, new community, new way of life, new local community. And you get all these different sentiments that resonate what we think is our good heart, when actually it's the Freemasons who are, I was trying to say before, the greatest liar is the one closest to the truth.
Yeah.
They cause the greatest damage of all because the dupe learned to trust them, right?
Yeah.
And so it's you've got to get past all the fantasizing of imagining what you have read in a book or what you've listened to someone like Arthur talking. You've got, all you can do is apply scrutiny and look at your own life and see, I can see that pattern, and work on with their dreaming, how to connect with nature, losing the senses again, so they can form their real dreams. And there that they will meet on the path of their journey others who are doing this to create the real eternal life of a village or tribe, because that's what it all is. Because earth is an eternal life. The truth is an eternal life. And all of man is an eternal life. The fiction has broken away from that. And the confusion is people are still relying on the fiction to give them some sense of direction and practice as to how to go about returning to the real eternal life. Because that eternal life, it lives forever, mate. It really is. And I'm not talking about the spirituality of eternal life and the books of all this. I'm talking about when you're in the real spirit of life itself. You'll watch the cow produce its calves, and how the cows grow up to produce its calves. And that eternal life just goes on and on and on. But there is a connection, that super intelligence that makes up the cow. Not the fiction of the cow, but the real life form that we at the moment still call a cow. There's a super intelligence there. And we can go back to its original purpose before we meddled with it, like we've done with dogs and cats, particularly dogs. And how we've turned dogs from wolves into what's become chihuahuas and other little things that just have no relation to the real dog. You know, so there's so much to unlearn and reconnect to recognize the real truth. So we got to work with.
Would you say that if we dig enough within ourselves, because it's all within, if we get to our heart, that's where we can find that super intelligence within the heart?
It's already here. Exactly. It's already here. The only reason why you're not experiencing it because you're just so busy in here and so distracted.
No, but that's it. You're too busy in there. You're too much
You've got to get out of there. Because who we are is not in here. None of what's in here is us. That's all part of the housing of the fantasy and the fictions of all that
in the
magic.
heart.
When we're sensing, you can't pinpoint it because it's all around us. And everything is can't be pinpointed because it's all undefined. There's a unique freedom and originality in everything. You'll never see two leaders.
We say, I love you from the bottom of my heart. I don't tell you I love you from the bottom of my brain. That's another one.
That's all part of Hollywood and
no, I know, but there must be something in the heart that can really love what is to be loved. That's what I'm saying. Maybe that's why Bob said
it comes from that real sincerity. I know and I get it. I really do get it, and it makes me a hypocrite because when you truly wake up, which I have experienced and still continue to do in my quiet time, we actually become very quiet because there's nothing to search for anymore. We're already being it, and in the power, in the present sense, we will attract and create everything to resolve the chaos that we have had fed and become part of. And it's here where we naturally break away peacefully and calmly, and where we have greater smarts, where our speed of thought is so much faster that we can anticipate someone else's intention who seeks to come and corrupt or harm our lives. And we can anticipate that and counter it. And the people who are behind it won't even know what we've done to keep them out of our life. But we are that powerful, truly are that powerful. And more, there's so much more to our capacity. I'm only getting a small glimpse of it, going through what I'm going through. But it's not about how you look, how pretty our body, how suntan our body, how much we can surf or how much we can swim. I mean, all those are natural things anyway. But considering that we've been Frankenstein and we're coming out of a Frankenstein reality, with distorted dreams and ideas, which is all Frankenstein, and feelings which are all Frankenstein because they're not normal, not natural, to then return to a real one. We
Even
have
the
to be
food is
able to,
Frankenstein.
yeah, everything's Frankenstein. We are Frankenstein, or
Oh yeah,
Godzilla.
empires and
We are it. But to get past the ego and the self-importance and to get past all that narcissism, so where all roads lead to self, instead of all roads leading to kingdom, to the village and the greater love everyone, we still are individuals, all these individuals where all roads lead to self and the survival of self and the protection of self, because behind it is a distrust still. There's an uncertainty. There's all kinds of things. So we work and we fight and we cling. It's very hard to let go of the fiction of money. Let go, because while you hold on to the fiction of money, you need a whole system in operation. You need basically tens of thousands, millions of brothers and sisters who are brainwashed from childhood to become the cogs and the wheels that turn of the system, where you get your blue collars and your white collars and your slave laborers and all that coming out, doing all the intellectual property, the memorizing of all the intellectual property, all copyrighted by these Freemasons, all of it fiction, none of it real, to play out what we call everyday life in the system. Be it a tradesman, be it an entrepreneur, digital entrepreneur, be it in fiat currency or not, be it in all the what do you call it, the Bitcoin stuff. All this is fiction, mate. All of it is just made up. We just used natural things and called it a value and said, oh, it's gold or silver or platinum, whatever. We've made it all up. The gold didn't tell us that we are gold and we are valuable more than silver. The diamond didn't say to us, oh, we're greater than a sapphire, or we're greater than a piece of rock. Because in the real one, everything is in that way equal, undefined equal, where we have absolute respect for everything. Because everything has an importance, and all of it collectively is what makes the total greater than individual parts. It's all those things that we should never have interfered with. We should never gone into the fabric of nature and life and all that and start messing with it. And the generation to leave us in this mess we are today. So, that's how I look at it.
Who said gold is more valuable than copper or silver or bronze or
even
titanium
a man?
or
Gold
name
is
it?
more valuable than a man.
Who said that?
And take it further. The gold's more valuable than a man. And we'll go and kill him because of the gold.
Go kill him. Yeah.
Or that my religion is a greater religion than yours. And they're all fictions. And we'll go to war and kill each other. Or political ideologies. And we go and kill each other. Because we haven't enshrined the superintelligence in our vessel. We haven't got access. It's been diminished, depleted. We'll sit around with sentiments. Oh, yes, we want love. We want to do the right thing. We all want peace and calm. But we carry all the fiction of all the chaos. And we want to continue with this chaos. Even if we enter into the New World Order, where all the good guys and all the bad guys in the higher levels of Freemasonry in the pyramid have engineered both the bad and the good to bring together a whole new change in the way we're living together. That's still not the real one. And yet the whole thing you're seeing playing out today with Donald Trump and Iran and everywhere else is this stuff.
Yeah.
In spite of the sincerity of how we are, because we're all effed up so much that we think we're doing the right thing and we act as Donald Trump or people in Iran or whatever. But collectively, the fictions, without that superintelligence, that wholeness, that of the good heart, we will always be in conflict, because once we step away from that good heart, we entered chaos. And when we enter chaos, we won't have the respect. We won't have the humility. We won't have that true kindness. We won't have that grace and chivalry and all the natural liberties, all the things that the good heart shines and enshrines as life itself, which you get from nature if we don't corrupt it. So all that's happening is because we have disregarded, we've stepped aside from that superintelligence of the good heart and its virtues. That's why it's all that's happening. So when we get back to the good heart, we stop playing out chaos. We stop playing out searching for something that's fiction to appease us. We stop being lost in being, I don't know how I say this, describe it, but we stop being caught up in things that are never going to satiate what we think we don't have. So we will stop being sex addicts. We will stop masturbating. We will stop wanking off 1,001 things that we do. We will stop. There's just so many things we have with fictions that are unnatural foods, liquids, waters. We will stop playing with chemicals and things. We'll stop playing with plastic and telecommunications, electronics and all that, because we don't want to support the machine of the system to have the good little bits we want from it. You follow that? Because if you want the good little bits of the system, you need the whole system in practice for you to have it. So everyone in the system wants all the good bits from it. They want to ignore all the bad bits that come with all the good. They all come together. We don't want to look at it. But then when it gets too close to home, like that thing I was talking about, Godzilla comes to a village, and rips open the roof, and everyone's watching this on TV, and it's a neighbor up the road, and there they are. Godzilla goes, grabs them all out, eats them all, and they all go, oh, it's not happening to us. And they just carry on doing what they're doing. And the next day,
yeah.
And all the time we think, oh, well, everyone else thinks, oh, it's not happening to us. It's not our problem. We're so broken down. Harm to you is harm to me. Harm to me is harm to you. When we truly wake up at a local level like this, we stop it. We have to stop it all. But that means we need to have a lifestyle, a natural lifestyle that meets everything everybody needs naturally. So we are in that true peace and calm, where we don't allow the chaos to play out with its narcissism and ego and what's in it for me, and I want the best bits, and fight and equivalent, I'm right and you're wrong, and all this sort of shit goes on and on. You've got to stop playing out all this crap.
Arguments. Arguments. That's the word I wanted to put in, because we argue a lot. But when I look at the word argue, meant the mind, arrogant. Like when you argue with people, it's because you lack humility. If you have humility, you don't argue. Well,
you sacrifice.
You argue with fiction.
Exactly, because when you get out of that here, when you get out of here again, that's where the argument and
it's all in there.
It's all in here. Everything going wrong is in here. It's nowhere else. It's just all that shit that's coming from everyone else around us who defined everything to us from the moment we appeared in the womb, and all the feelings and all those emotions that came with it are all accumulated. But unless we can step away from that, we're not going to have that kind of real breakthrough that we're really dreaming for, because being an individual is still either you isolate and you create a homestead kind of life, and you don't need anybody because you're self-sustaining everything, and you don't need fiction anymore for anything. That's great if you have a good family around you, or if you can simplify your life as a true raw fooder. And your needs are so basic again, which is nothing wrong about that you could pull that off. But very difficult and challenging for social creatures not to have that real connection, because today, as you get up into your 30s and 40s, into your 50s and 60s, that you've been so worn down by the argument and what's been done to you and the harm that you don't want to get close anymore, even though you really want to. But it's the confusion and the distortion and all the doubt and the uncertainty, all that plays out so much with the fear that we just don't know how to come truly together to fix something that can be fixed, so that eternally it never repeats again, that we put an end to it all. So it's a lot of letting go. So, when we're doing what we're doing here, let's just go back to what I touched on in the last video. This 26.8 acres is to create a paradise that we live for, living in the dream of the paradise. There was hardly any paradise here. We're going to create one where there wasn't one. So we're going to be busy in the dream of transforming a piece of land where we're going to have water moving all the way around the property as a constant, so we can hear the sound of water. We're going to be holding multi-millions of liters of water, and then connect the keyline systems where the streams that we create that interconnect with each other, so that from there we can then work out our simple roadways, natural roadways and pathways, build timber bridges over these natural things, put flowers and bulbs everywhere, have green sweeping fields, have botanical gardens, food forests, feather-friendly environments, native habitats, build natural sheds, natural home in amongst this, as we're all busy creating it. So we're not in the argument. We're not in the disenfranchised state. We're not in a hopeless situation. We're actually creating a living dream of a real paradise that we live for and be. And that is what kingdom is. And it's in there that the true power of life itself flourishes. But then it's also a living example as a gift for others to see with their own eyes. Look at these people. They don't need police. They don't need government. They don't need a Messiah or Savior. They don't need religions. They don't need anything. And even if a Messiah came along, well, he could just hop in a, somewhere, sit down, relax for 6 months. Got nothing to do because it's already been done. Everything's been handled. It's all working because we all have the ability to do that. But we've got to be able to wake up and go to bed, not in here anymore, but out, shining out for the dream of life, so we can pass on that legacy, that inheritance to our great-grandchildren. Now, if everyone else gets inspired and starts creating local villages as well, this is how we break down. So we break away from local councils and the fiction of local councils, break away from state government, the fictions of state government, break away from federal governments and national governments. We take the full responsibility back at our local level because each of us are fully responsible. It starts with each of us to be that living dream and not depend on anyone else in that way, and be the sun that shines. And then in union and co-creation with others who are doing this, who live this, we can create the paradise. Because then when you wake up and go to bed and you're out there working and laboring for this magnificent paradise that we've created, and to keep it that way and expand it. But from there, all the food project, we can produce over 500 tons of free food from this 26.8 acres and give it away to the community for free as a gift, as a constant, and still be part of a local village, and you've got nothing missing. Because see, at the moment, we spend so much time in fiction about I, me, and my. We're so trapped in the all-seeing I that all roads lead to self. Now, as I pointed out to you in other videos, all that life energy we give to fiction dissipates to nothing. You've got nothing to show for it. There's no life there. It's just death, emptiness, empty, a life of nothing, no life. So people who love fiction say, I love fiction more than we love life. And they will die like that, if that's what you want. But when you truly love life, you can't just have some life and some fiction. You've got to have what we do, we're going to build a bridge from the system. We're already doing it now, building a bridge from the system to kingdom. It's an imaginary bridge. And we use everything of the system to build the infrastructure of the village as we build the paradise. And then we burn the bridge. And then in doing that, we also start burning off the fictions that we did to get our lives simple again. When we learn to be able to we don't have all these huge needs for the wheel of the system with all the slaves in it to give us all the good bits that we want from it. And as we learn to break away from that, the system starts to fade away and break down. Otherwise, if we don't do it, the earth-wide devastation that we have created as a fever, I call it the red fever, will be so enormous, it'll happen so fast that most of us will be gone and won't even know that we're gone. And the devastation and that cleaning up will have to happen by life, by nature, by us, by those of us who are awake, who will know where they need to be when this shit happens shortly, because I don't think it's far away now. I don't know whether it's 5 years, 2 years, 1 year, 6 months or whatever, but it's not far away. So, you know, sorry, go on.
Maybe you can agree with me, I'm pretty sure you're going to agree, because we're talking about fiction, so you're a professional in this. Would you agree that the grocery stores are a major fiction? I always feel weird entering those places. I feel like I don't belong there. I shouldn't be here. All the food is crap anyway. And to grow food is free. You can have all kinds of food free, like you said, if you grow your own food. It's all free. You keep your seeds over years, and you have your own bank of seeds and stuff.
When you're part of a tribe, when you're part of a tribe and you're all living for that kind of dream, you are all of us the sun that shine. The abundance and the magnificence is so incredible. And that's why we are custodians and wisdom keepers and caring, because the real paradise before we fell into fiction long ago was what we're talking about here in recreating it here, because the whole of earth was paradise. There's no one spot more exclusive, more privileged than another. The whole of creation was unique and original. There was no leaf. This is why we talk about it. You'll never find two leaves the same, 2 grains of sand the same. You'll never find 2 of anything of life the same. The uniqueness and the originality in the moment, by moment, is unique and original always. And that living in the moment, the here and now, and reverence of the whole of life. All that letting go to be able to do that is all letting go of all this in here, all in your head, all that chaos. You're letting go of all of it, and all the scripts playing out about, oh, that's Jupiter, and on it goes, all the stops, because all that matters in the here and now is just caring for life and nurturing life, not as a burden, as a joy, as an expression, because we love it. And when we love it, it means we're fully responsible, which means our domain will never be broken. Because our ancestors long ago, when it all started, like when they talk about the forbidden tree, which is explanation, instruction, education, suggestion, indoctrination, inculcation, etc. When the snake coiled around the forbidden tree as a man, putting a suggestion into a man's head, and we call that Eve, as in the symbolism, and Eve likes it and then wants to pass on that idea, that fiction, to Adam, and then from that, he likes it, and then into the family. This began the decay, the breakdown from paradise, where we went from being truly pure and sincere in our real nakedness, where there was no pride or self anything, there was none of this shit we are today in that way, to how we've descended from that through the generation till today. Because remember, in the other videos, we talk about how the third parties, interlopers, intermeddlers, interceders, and how in fiction we give up responsibility for our lives, and we accepting all these fictions that come into our life to become the machinations of a system drone lifestyle, where you need everything of the system to provide what you need to survive, because you don't know who you are, what you are anymore in an alien world that we've created. Because the only aliens that exist are us. There is no aliens in outer space. We are outer space in our outer space because we left the heart. That's where the outer space is, and we've gone into the head. That's all that's happened. You're not going to talk directly with a living alien culture and see their children and visit their children, and we all can sit under a tree and share drinks and meals together and do this for a long time. You won't be able to do that. It doesn't exist like that, It's all man-made. No matter what's been described in the visual imagery and all the things that go, oh, we're powerless. Yeah. There's something greater than us. But all that time, it's us. We are the power.
Wow.
It's to break you down with reptilian shapeshifters and little grey men running around and all this sort of stuff. It's all fiction. It's only a man who talks about it, who illustrates it, who describes it, who uncovers physical forms that were man-made. Everything is man-made. When you wake up, you realize everything has been designed with man. Our brothers have turned against us as brothers to manipulate because they want power and control. Everything in the system is all about power and control. Every aspect of the system is always about power and control. Every fine detail of it is about power and control. It's to control you through here. So you are subservient to a system. You give your life energy to it, right? And that becomes the devastation of a civilization, because the whole thing was fiction. And you look through the remains of the previous civilization, they're just ghosts. There may be still physical form structures there, but there's nothing of nature that needs it. All that nature can do is swallow it all up and break it all down again. Yeah. It can grow trees out of the dirt that builds over the top of the old pyramids and outhouses and everything else that we built, and obelisks that fell down, and statues and all that. We are not statues, should be not living in statutes, and following all these regulations and rules, because we're not statues. We're a living man.
Anyway, that's it for today, Arthur, because I have to leave the premises. But it was very, very interesting. Once again, I think we have touched the heart, definitely. If we didn't touch your heart, because you have none, maybe it's time to return to it.
Well, you just got to start living it. That's what we talk about. Each day we just practice it bit by bit, growing food like you're doing. You're growing in pots, whatever you're doing. And you just got to keep working on nurturing life until you gradually break.
I started my tomatoes. Everything is started. Beets, tomatoes. I grow what I can grow. And
if you do it and you have enough neighbors all want to do it, then maybe eventually you'll all come with sledgehammers and break down all the buildings and recycle it all and build more natural lives on the land you're already on now, which had everything that was providing to you. Because when you get back to the real paradise, it takes care of everything. We're no longer slaves, so we're free to contemplate more. We're free to dream a lot more. We're free to do much more with the good heart.
Dream on.
instead of being burdened, and
Dream on, my people. So that's it. Where I'm ending the stream, and we will
Look-
probably be forward again. I have some more stuff on my list. So
I look forward to meeting more brothers and sisters who want to go on this real path and be
yeah,
responsible, take responsibility. Look forward to meeting them.
responsibility. See ya. We're out.
Bye.